Chapter 91. Thank you, Mr. Watts. Orissa returned a toast of thanks with Kingsley. Then, she took a sip from her wine glass. One sip of wine isn't sufficient, Kingsley teased. Orissa glanced at him and smiled politely. I can't drink too much as I still have to work in the afternoon. Despite saying that, she still finished her glass of wine with a huge gulp. Miss York has good alcohol tolerance. Impressive. Kingsley gave her a thumbs up. He finished his wine quickly and went on to another glass for her. Orissa stopped him. Mr. Watts, I can't drink anymore. A few more glasses of wine would not really make her drunk. However, it would make her less energetic at work. Kingsley, that's enough. Benjamin kicked Kingsley beneath the table. Kingsley's hand trembled because of this. This caused some wine to be splattered onto Gavin's face. I am terribly sorry, Gavin. Kingsley quickly apologized. Orissa wiped the mess off Gavin's face with a napkin. Did it enter your eyes? She asked with concern. No, Gavin shook his head. He then frowned at Kingsley and scolded, Mr. Watts, you're not a gentleman. You insisted on making Miss York drink more even though she refused to. Kingsley suppressed his urge to burst into laughter. It seems like both Benjamin and Gavin are protective of Orissa. A little more wouldn't hurt. One more glass of wine? Kingsley asked Orissa. Orissa agreed helplessly. Just a little. Kingsley smirked and poured half a glass of wine for her. Orissa's mouth twitched slightly. There you go. Less than one glass of wine. Kingsley stood and placed the glass in front of her. He also poured himself a glass of wine. Subsequently, he faced Benjamin and asked, do you want a drink as well? Benjamin, who had a grim look on his face, glared at him. Kingsley immediately turned away and asked the others, does anyone else want a drink? Everyone rejected his offer after seeing what he did to Orissa. They excused themselves as they had to resume work in the afternoon. The employees suggested casually, Mr. Watts, let's have a drink at night instead. All of them knew Kingsley well as he visited Graham Group very often. Sure, let's go then. Kingsley replied mischievously. Miss York, don't go with Mr. Watts. Gavin raised his head and told Orissa. Orissa smiled at Gavin dotingly. I will be all right. Kingsley grinned. He raised his glass and said, cheers. We shall continue tonight. Orissa toasted and took a few sips. She then said, Mr. Watts, I have to take care of my kids after work tonight. I'm afraid I will not be able to accept your invitation. Benjamin felt better after hearing Orissa rejecting Kingsley. So, it's true that you have children at home? Kingsley asked with a smile. Orissa nodded her head. Has everyone finished their meal? Benjamin's voice rang. The lively atmosphere disappeared instantly. The employees started to finish up their food swiftly. The lunch lasted till around 1 in the afternoon. They left Drawbridge Dining 20 minutes before the working hours started. Gavin, I need to head back to work already. Orissa was happy to see her son here. What's more, they even had a meal together. Gavin blinked. Miss York, since there's still some time left before you resume working, can you send me to school? He held her hand as he did not want to part with her so soon. Orissa's heart melted at his request. She pinched his cheeks and looked at him. Get in the car, Benjamin instructed with a raised chin. Orissa secretly laughed and carried Gavin into the car. Come on, I'll send you to school. Hee hee, awesome. Gavin smiled happily. Benjamin froze as he noticed slight hints of similarity between both of their smiles. I'll be right back after sending Gavin off, Orissa informed her colleagues. To be honest, it was rather awkward for an employee to be in her employer's car on her first day of work. However, Orissa did not care much. She only wanted to spend more time with son. Chapter 92. All right, Miss York. We will head back first then. Orissa's colleagues decided to take a stroll back to the office as there was still some time to spare. Besides that, it would help with digesting the food they ate. Orissa nodded and got into the car subsequently. Once both Orissa and Gavin were seated in the car, Benjamin got into the car as well and closed the car door behind him. Orissa instantly found the spacious interior of the car cramped as he got in. On the other hand, Kingsley was not welcomed. He was just about to get into the passenger's seat when he heard Benjamin's order. Get down. Orissa shifted her gaze from Benjamin to Kingsley. She gave Kingsley an empathetic look. Kingsley was nonplussed. He turned to look in Benjamin's direction. Boss, if you don't give me a ride, how am I supposed to head back to the office? Get down the car. I'm not going where you are going, Benjamin replied with a cold look. Fine, I'll get off the car, Kingsley whined as he looked at them. Once he was outside, he shouted and waved his hand. Orissa, let's grab a drink when you are free. Orissa did not respond to him. Nevertheless, she received a stern stare from Benjamin. Orissa did not know what she did wrongly. Start the car, Benjamin told the driver. Kingsley rubbed his nose as the car drove away. He swiftly shouted to the colleagues who had not gone too far away, Hey, wait for me. Kingsley had no choice but to walk to the office with them. This was because his car was still parked in Graham Group. Once he caught up with them, he put his arms around the technician's arms. Shall we continue drinking tonight? Since you asked, of course we'll go. No problem. Meanwhile, Orissa was chatting with Gavin in the car. She looked at him lovingly. At the same time, she felt an intimidating stare from the side. However, when she looked at Benjamin, the stony-faced man was looking up ahead. Orissa shuddered at her own thoughts. She retracted her gaze and asked, Gavin, which school are you studying at? Gavin smiled mysteriously. You'll know very soon when we reach there. She laughed. So mysterious. Gavin chuckled. He was sure that Orissa would be surprised. As expected, Orissa looked shocked when they reached Gavin's school. She looked at the familiar surroundings and asked, This is your school? Benjamin's expression became slightly more solemn than before. That's right. Goodbye, Miss York. Gavin raised his head and pecked Orissa's cheek. Orissa planted a kiss on his cheek as well. Gavin then said happily, Daddy, I'm going in. Send Miss York back to the office. Goodbye. All right, Benjamin responded. He did not intend to get off the car. Gavin did not mind at all. He closed the car door after getting off the car. Goodbye, Miss York. Goodbye, Daddy. Goodbye. Orissa waved her hand as she replied with a sweet tone. She did not know the children were all studying in the same school. Gavin's expression turned cool as he entered the school. He quickly went to find Zachary and the others. Everyone was envious of him after knowing that he had lunch with Orissa. Orissa leaned back onto the car seat to relax as the car headed to the office. Suddenly, a stern voice rang out. Orissa York. Her body stiffened. Yes, Mr. Graham. Are you anxious? Benjamin stared at her. Orissa was speechless. Anyone would be shocked if their full names were called abruptly. Without replying to his question, she queried, Is there anything I can help you with, Mr. Graham? Benjamin continued to stare at her with his cold, distant look. Orissa froze. After some observations, she realized he was not going to say anything. Hence, she decided to use this opportunity to clarify her doubt. She cleared her throat and asked, Mr. Graham, there's something I wish to ask you. Benjamin's gaze on her remained intense. He did not respond. At this instant, Orissa felt the pressure in the air. She sized him up and met his dark eyes. It was as if they were ready to pierce through her. Her heart skipped a bear. This man definitely radiated a strong aura. What is it? A low voice echoed the quiet car. Chapter 93. Is Donna your girlfriend? Orissa blurted. She learned from her son that Donna was not Benjamin's fiancée. However, Donna claimed that she was. Orissa was certain that Donna had feelings for him. She was not sure whether the feeling was mutual. It's your first day of work today. Yet, you're already eager to gossip about your employer. Benjamin questioned, sarcastically as he stared at her. Mr. Graham, I think you misunderstood my intention. Orissa cleared her throat awkwardly and smiled. Then, why do you want to know? Benjamin leaned forward. He exuded a domineering aura. The faint fragrance on Orissa's body roused the desires within him. Orissa's heart raced uncontrollably as she met his intense stare. She recalled how they conceived children after that fateful night. Benjamin had a minty smell laced with a hint of cigarette on him. She would be lying if she said she wasn't attracted to him. Suppressing her feelings and calming herself down, she inched toward the car door to distance herself from Benjamin. I just want to know if you will help her if someone finds fault with her. Orissa asked. Straightforwardly, she continued, would you make an enemy out of that person? Benjamin's gaze still appeared distant. He raised his brows and sneered. This depends on who the person is. He gave a vague answer. Orissa frowned. She's your woman. Benjamin sharpened his gaze even more intently. The corners of his lips were lifted. He mocked, Orissa, what are your intentions of getting close to me? He was not sure why Orissa wanted to know about his relationship with Donna. Could it be because she wants to marry me? Strangely, Benjamin was not repulsed by this idea. Orissa did not utter a word. When she applied for this position in Graham Group, she did not know Benjamin was the father to her children. Saying that she approached him on purpose was basically an impossibility. However, that was the past. Now, she did have her own plans. They had 5 children together. Right now, she just wanted to be together with her children and repay him. What can I get from you? Orissa retorted. Benjamin replied, you're sharp-tongued. I hope you're as witty at work. Orissa was rendered speechless. This man was insufferable. She answered, I'm always good at work. Otherwise, you wouldn't hire me, right? Benjamin snorted. He shifted his gaze away from her and looked up ahead. Nobody knew what he was thinking of. Orissa stared at him with a bothered look. She still was not sure how Benjamin felt about Donna. She wondered if Benjamin refused to reveal their intimate relationship to protect their privacy. For a moment, she thought of obtaining Benjamin's hair sample to perform a DNA test on him and the children. She wanted to expose Donna's evil plans. However, Benjamin would know about their children too. By that time, Benjamin would side with Donna and snatch her children away from her. She did not know what she could do if that happened. Hence, she could not take the risk. What are you thinking about? Orissa looked up and saw his piercing eyes. She was taken aback by his action. She gulped. You will not want to know. Then, she turned her head away from him. Feeling unnerved, she blamed him for always speaking out of a sudden. When she was looking at him, he chose to stay silent instead. This man was unpredictable. Benjamin smiled lightly. If you don't tell me, how do you know I wouldn't want to know? I am silently scolding your fiancé. Orissa hissed. Benjamin paused for a while. Orissa was frustrated as he remained silent again when she wanted him to speak. She turned her head away from him. She's not my fiancé. His low, attractive voice rang beside her. Really? Orissa looked at him with disbelief. She met Benjamin's mocking gaze and was embarrassed by his expression. Orissa tried to hide her emotions and replied softly, I thought she was. If that is the case, Donna is shameless. She was not Benjamin's fiancé, but she claimed herself to be. Orissa's impression of Donna changed. You thought she was what? Benjamin looked at her from the side. His eyes darkened as he realized this woman had bright and attractive eyes that sparkled like stars in the night sky. Chapter 94. Oh, it's nothing. Orissa blinked and smiled in embarrassment. You're that happy to know that she's not my fiancé. Benjamin's glistening gaze swept over the bright smile on her face. Orissa paused. Am I? Little did she know that her smiling eyes exposed the joy in her heart. Orissa cleared her throat and replied, it's great that such a wonderful man like you isn't going to marry a woman like her. I'm happy for you, Mr. Graham. Even I'm not happy, so why are you? Benjamin snorted coldly. Unless you want to be my fiancé. Orissa looked at him. How narcissistic could he get? Was it even appropriating for him to talk like this to a subordinate of his? Her heart skipped a few beats as she faced Benjamin's deep, loving eyes. Well, Mr. Graham, are you all right with that? She asked cheekily. Benjamin was not only handsome and rich but also successful. He was also the father of the children. It wouldn't do any harm for her to suck up to him. He was single anyway. Besides that, she was not in a relationship either. Benjamin didn't think she would admit it so quickly and was slightly startled. Do you think you're good enough for me? He smirked coldly. She had her own motives, after all. It didn't take long for her ulterior motives to get exposed. Orissa almost laughed at his arrogant and mocking tone. Well, it's the same for me. I was only testing you, so don't worry, I don't have the habit of liking my boss. In a professional setting, it's still better to have a clear distinction between our private and public matters. She smiled back at him. Benjamin's handsome face sank, and a sense of displeasure swelled up in his heart. Inside the vehicle, it had quietened down. Coupled along with the low and depressing atmosphere, the air felt too dense to breathe in. Orissa stole a glance at him, an inexplicable feeling surfacing in her heart. He was unhappy when she said she liked him and still was when she said she did not. How elusive is this man? You're right, Miss York. There still has to be a clear distinction between the two when we're in the office. I hope you won't have any other ideas regarding this matter and that you'll perform well at work, Benjamin said in a low voice. The corner of Orissa's mouth slightly twitched as she nodded in agreement. I'll follow whatever Mr. Graham teaches me. Would he have a problem with me, regardless of what I do? It was only her first day of work. He was already finding so many faults with her. I've had found my son anyway. Is it time for me to switch companies? After all, it would be extremely tiring to face such an unpredictable boss every day. After returning to the company, neither of them talked. Leave. Just as the car stopped, Benjamin ordered her with a stance that she could not disobey. Mr. Graham, thank you for the ride. Orissa frowned but still said politely. Benjamin's eyes swept over her angry face once again. The expression of her daring not to speak even seemed a little cute on her. Orissa got off the car and shut the door directly. She did so with quite a bit of force to express her displeasure. Benjamin raised his eyebrows slightly. She's got a bit of a temper. Orissa walked into the office confidently with her head held high. Her high heels hit the ground crisply. In the hall, everyone looked sideways toward her. What a bastard. If he continues to treat me like this, I'll just resign. It's no big deal. Mr. Graham, are you not heading in? The driver asked cautiously upon seeing that Benjamin had not gotten out of the car nor said where he wanted to go. To the hospital, Benjamin said solemnly as he gripped the hair in the pocket of his trousers, and his gaze wavered. The driver hurriedly drove toward Sean's hospital. Hey, Benjamin, what brings you here? Upon seeing that Benjamin had come, Sean was surprised and got up to greet him. Benjamin glared at him. Faced with Benjamin's silent and stern stare, Sean felt a tinge of fear emerge. Why have you come to look for me? Benjamin glanced at him briefly. After a while, he said, I'll give you a chance. Sean was speechless. What in the world is going on? Benjamin took out the hair and placed it in front of Sean. Re-authenticate this. Sean's pupils widened. All of that for this. Chapter 95. He looked at the uneven strands of hair in Benjamin's palm before looking at Benjamin's serious expression. Who does the hair belong to? He couldn't help but be curious. Benjamin wants a second round of this. That is simply too strange. Are you going to do it? Benjamin shot him a sharp look. I'll do it, Sean said as he rubbed his nose. Benjamin still had yet to give up, but that was all right. Sean would rerun the tests again, even though he did not believe that the results would be any different. He placed the sample in a bag and saw Benjamin standing there, unwilling to leave. Anything else? I'll watch you do it, Benjamin said, his expression completely serious. Sean was left speechless, and the corners of his mouth twitched slightly. It's useless even if you watch me. This is going to take a few hours at least. You should go ahead with your own stuff. I'm scared that you'll fall asleep, Benjamin taunted. Sean was unable to refute any more, so he smiled and said, I promise I won't fall asleep throughout the entire process. All right, I'll definitely get the tests done for you. Get it done now. Benjamin glared at him. Seeing how Benjamin was bent on waiting for the test results, Sean had no choice but to head over to the test center. Benjamin followed him closely. Being stared at like that made Sean incredibly stressed out. He could not shoo Benjamin away either, so Sean could only bite the bullet and run the tests. At that moment, Benjamin's phone started to ring. It was a call from Ethan. He headed outside to take the call. Mr. Graham, I've finished the investigation. Donna's car was parked near the hospital yesterday, and I found out that she went to see a gynecologist. But there are no traces of her in the hospital's security camera footage. Someone tampered with it. Benjamin's eyes narrowed, and his gaze wavered. Why tamper with the surveillance cameras when you're visiting the doctor? Conveniently, the test machines were spoiled, and Sean had fallen asleep too. Not bad, Mr. Graham. Ethan did not hear Benjamin's response and thought he was not listening. All right, I'm at the hospital now. Ethan's eyes widened. He answered briefly before hanging up and heading to the cafeteria to eat. Kingsley was curled up on the sofa in his office, looking at all the trends on the major media platforms. Well, that sly fox can't hide its tail and lie to us anymore. Ethan looked at him, curious as to what he was doing. Once he walked toward him and took a closer look, he realized that Kingsley was scolding Donna. Well, that was something to admire about him. Mr. Watts, you can continue with your scoldings. I'll go have my food first. You're going to eat. Have you settled all these things already? Kingsley took a quick glance at him and waved his phone. You did all of this, and Mr. Graham didn't say anything. So this has nothing to do with me. Ethan ran away, hurriedly. If he did not, he would not even have time to have lunch. What if I tell Mr. Graham on you? Kingsley tutted. Ethan was left speechless, but he then shouted, I haven't had lunch. Ha ha, Kingsley gloated. If you haven't eaten, why shout at me? If you have the nerves, then go shout at Benjamin. He's the one who deliberately got you to leave. We had a great time eating. What? Ethan was shocked. Earlier on, Kingsley did not say anything when he first entered. He just sat there, and both parties were engrossed in their own issues without paying attention to each other. I said, Benjamin asked you to leave so he could have lunch with Arissa. Kingsley shot him a glance. Ethan was speechless. How could this have happened? Ethan burst into tears and turned to walk toward the cafeteria. Kingsley's laughter emerged from behind him. Benjamin treated all of us to lots of delicious food. That was too much of him. Benjamin did not even think to pack some food for me when he returned. Ethan pursed his lips as he cried silently. At the hospital, Benjamin was smoking outside as he stared into the distance. Sean came out and walked to his side, both hands in his pockets. Aren't you busy? What's the progress like on the authentication tests? Benjamin tilted his head, his eyes showing his eagerness. For an answer, Sean looked at him. The rest will be handled by the machine, and the process will require some time. Who's this for? How come you're paying so much attention to it? Benjamin gulped as he said in a low voice, It belongs to Gavin and his mom. Chapter 96. Sean's eyes widened. Gavin and Donna's. Do you suspect that they're not mother and son? Benjamin rolled his eyes and sighed. It isn't Donna's. Sean was utterly shocked. Are you saying that Gavin's mom is someone else? Wow, that is big news. When did you start having your suspicions? Who's that woman? Do I know her? Benjamin glanced at the talkative Sean before ordering sternly, Go monitor the machine. If you ask any more questions, I'll kill you. Sean, agitated, said, I guarantee that there'll be no problems this time. He hurriedly ran in, and the machine had fixed it up by then. There were no complications at all. The outcome would be the same no matter what. Who exactly does Benjamin think is Gavin's mom? Sean was incredibly curious. He could not help but take his phone out and text Kingsley about it. Kingsley chuckled and replied, No comment. Well, that was enough curiosity to kill. Benjamin had a few more puffs of his cigarette before crushing it. Just as he was about to head in, the phone in his pocket started vibrating again. Upon seeing that it was the butler who had called, Benjamin frowned. What's the matter? He put his phone to his ear and asked in a low voice. Edwin informed him about the issue concerning Donna and her mother. Mr. Graham, Donna and her mother are here to find Gavin. They are blocking the door and refusing to leave. Benjamin's face sank. Donna had ignored his words after all. I'll send someone to pick Gavin up after school. Don't let them know. They're free to do whatever they like. Benjamin ordered in a low voice. Yes, Mr. Graham, Edwin replied. Benjamin's mouth coldly twitched as he turned around and walked into the test lab. Upon seeing that Benjamin had entered, Sean put his phone away. Benjamin glanced at him before he stared at the data flashing on the machine. It was still in progress. Seriously, if you have anything you need to tend to, you can go. I'll definitely watch the results closely and let you know once they're out. Sean grinned. Donna was in the hospital yesterday. Your surveillance cameras have been tampered with. It's time to change up your security, Benjamin said coldly as he continued to stare at the screen. What? The surveillance cameras have been tampered with. Sean was surprised to think that he had slept so soundly on top of the fact that the machines were broken. He then turned to look at Benjamin, who looked like he knew something about the matter. Do you suspect that the authentication tests have been manipulated? Sean exclaimed in shock. Benjamin shot him a sharp glance. He did not suspect that there was anything wrong with the tests but felt that his son's words made a lot of sense. That kid had never been so close to anyone before. If his son was right, Orissa was definitely Gavin's mom. There was no doubt about it. Let me ask you something, can moles disappear suddenly? Sean, surprised by the question, frowned. It's not possible. Even if they fade, they do so over time. They can't disappear instantly. Besides, they usually can't disappear completely unless you undergo procedures to remove them. Benjamin's mouth twitched as he sat down in Sean's seat and waited for the results patiently. When he saw that Benjamin was staying, he knew there was nothing he could do about that. He took a look at the time and told him, "Stay here by yourself. I'll go to the surveillance room and ask around." Sean was depressed. I can't believe my people were the problem. Benjamin just stared at the screen of the machine without saying a word. Sean rubbed his nose and left. Right after he ended school, Gavin received a call from the bodyguard saying that he would be escorted to the office. I don't want to go to the office, I want to play with my classmates for a while. He saw Zachary and his friends. His mommy had told them to wait in school for her to end work. He wanted to go with his mommy. The bodyguard knew that he wanted to play for a while more as well, and so, he did not bring Gavin to the office. Upon returning to the office, Orissa buried herself in work. She only started to pack up the rest of the work after the alarm on her phone went off. She called Ethan, who picked up her call. This made her immensely happy. Miss York, what's the matter? Chapter 97. Mr. Frank, call me on my phone if anything crops up. It's my child's first day of school today, I'm going to pick him up. Work hours had already ended, but she was concerned she would be required to work overtime. That was why she called Ethan to inform him. All right, go ahead, Miss York. Orissa tidied up some documents, intending to finish up some incomplete work at home. Looking at how her colleagues were still busy with their work, Orissa felt slightly embarrassed. Everyone, go back as soon as you're done with your work. I'll head off first, so call me if you need anything. All right, see you tomorrow, Miss York. See you tomorrow. Orissa smiled, glad that they understood her predicament. She got into the taxi hurriedly and called the children, unaware that the driver seated in front was looking at her wickedly. Sweetheart, I'll reach in a while. Mommy, take your time. Zachary replied, together with Gavin and all the other children. Orissa smiled and did not talk much after. She reminded them to wait for her before hanging up the phone. When she saw a dessert shop at the side of the road, she asked the driver to stop for a while. However, the driver, who was wearing a cap, did not stop the car. He continued to drive. Orissa frowned and looked at the driver. She saw that he had a scar on his face and started to worry. She instantly recalled what Bradley had told her. She tried to open the car door in a panic, only to realize it had been locked. Stop the car. I want to get off. Orissa, now flustered, took out the self-defense tools in her bag hurriedly. But the driver acted as if he did not even hear what she said. Instead of stopping the car, he even started to drive faster. Orissa leaned over and put a knife to his throat. Stop, she shouted. He did not expect her to have a knife with her. With a backhanded move, he knocked the knife out of her hand. Orissa was shocked and moved forth to attack the driver. Who are you? The car swerved on the road and nearly collided with other cars. The driver did not say anything and wanted to take control of the car. Orissa moved to the front immediately. She hit him hard with the hammer that was used to break the windows. The driver did not expect her to have another weapon and was knocked unconscious by her. With the car swerving about on the road, Orissa quickly took control of the steering wheel. With the driver seated in the driver's seat, it took her a few tries to step onto the brakes. However, she still ended up ramming into the belt of greenery. As her head knocked right into the steering wheel, Orissa felt somewhat concussed. After a while, she regained her senses. She quickly got off the car with her belongings before calling the police. Both the traffic police and police came quickly. The 5 children were still waiting for her at school. They called her again when she had not arrived. "Sweetheart, something happened while mommy was on the way, so it's going to take a while for me to reach. Please wait for a little longer." "All right. Mommy will head over once she's done." Orissa did not dare to tell the children about how she nearly got kidnapped. She only reminded them to wait before she hung up the phone. Orissa spent an hour explaining the whole incident and leaving a statement before she could continue traveling to the school. She did not dare to get in a car anymore. Seeing that the school was a short distance away, she decided to run. "There, sweethearts, mommy's here. You guys can come out now." "Mommy, what happened? Why are you panting so heavily?" Zachary was concerned and asked after realizing that Orissa's voice was different. "Come out first. Mommy's going to catch her breath." Orissa, now breathless, sat by the belt of greenery as she tried to case her breathing. The teacher soon led the 5 children out. "Mommy." The 5 children ran over to hug her once they saw her. Upon seeing the children, the fear in Orissa's heart subsided instantly. She hugged and kissed all 5 of them. "Teacher, I'm really sorry about today. Something cropped up during my journey here. I'm really sorry for coming so late and for troubling you." Orissa apologized to the teacher. Her delay meant that the teacher had to work overtime as well. "It's all right. I like them a lot, and I'm really happy to be around them." The teacher smiled, not taking the delay to heart. Chapter 98. "Well, I'll be taking them home now. Say bye to your teacher." Orissa smiled courteously at the teacher and reminded the 5 children. The 5 little kids politely bid farewell to their teacher. "Bye-bye, teacher. See you tomorrow. See you tomorrow." The teacher flashed a sweet smile while waving them goodbye. "Bye, bye." Orissa nodded respectfully at the teacher before taking the 5 children away. "Mommy, what's wrong?" Gavin noticed that she did not look too good. "Are you okay?" "Mommy, why were you panting just now?" Zachary was also concerned. Oliver, Jasper, and Jesse picked up on their mother's strange behavior as well. They were all worried. "Mommy, you don't look okay." Orissa crouched down to embrace the 5 kids. She buried herself in their warmth. She took in a big whiff of the milky scent on their bodies. It had a calming effect on her. "I met a bad person in the car just now." Orissa finally spoke up. Having almost been kidnapped, she was frightened at the thought of now. Thankfully, she had a self-defense tool in her bag. It was also lucky that the person let his guard down, and that there was only him. Otherwise, she would not have been able to escape so quickly. "Mommy, what bad person?" The little kids were worried sick. Their eyebrows were tightly knitted together. "Mommy, are you hurt?" Gavin asked. Orissa shook her head. "No, I'm fine." "Mommy, you're lying. The side of your forehead is turning green." Jessie noticed the bruise on her forehead, and her eyes began to water. "Mommy, you're hurt." Orissa let go of them. She rubbed the spot on her head where she was hit. It was still sore. "I'm fine. It's just a small bruise which a little ointment can fix." Seeing this, a trace of fierceness flashed in Gavin's eyes. "Mommy, did you see who the bad person was?" Orissa was moved by his concern for her. She caressed his little head. "I've reported it to the police. They've already caught him." Zachary was furious. "Mommy, do you know who he is?" Oliver said through gritted teeth. "If I see him, I will beat him up." "Mommy, how many people were there?" Jasper was enraged as well. He wanted to tear the scoundrel into pieces. "How dare he hurt Mommy? Mommy, let me blow on it." Jessie stood on her tippy toes, frantically. huffing and puffing on Orissa's bruised forehead. Orissa was touched by her children's love and care. She gave them a big hug once more. I saw it clearly. It was one person. He is now at the police station, and the police will interrogate him. Let's go home, Orissa blurted out. Then, she got up and walked with them. Mommy, why did that bad guy attack you? Zachary had not stopped frowning since he heard the news. I got in his car. I got distracted by some desserts I saw on the roadside. I wanted to buy some for all of you, but he wouldn't stop the car. That was when I felt that something was wrong. I quickly tried to get off the car, and I hit him. She told the 5 children. Mommy, did he hit your head? Gavin asked with a dark expression. He looked just like his father at that moment. Orissa rubbed the child's head and explained, No. I accidentally hit my head in the car. Jasper exclaimed, Mommy, you should go to the hospital. There's no need for that. I'm not hurt anywhere else. You don't have to worry. I just need to buy some ointment for it. Mommy, there's a pharmacy there. Let's go buy the ointment. Oliver hurriedly pulled her forward. Orissa had no choice but to follow the little munchkin into the pharmacy. It was an unusual sight in the pharmacy when the 5 adorable little kids suddenly appeared. Gavin rushed to the pharmacist with a distressed look on his face. Miss, please give me the best ointment for bruises. How adorable. The pharmacist was struck by the child's cherubic appearance. However, when she caught sight of the 5 children glaring at her impatiently, she quickly went to grab the medicine. Thank you. After paying for the ointment, Orissa and her 5 children left the shop. Chapter 99. Mommy, sit down. I'll apply the ointment for you. Zachary pulled her over to a bench. Sweetheart, we'll do it at home. Orissa saw that quite a number of people were looking at her and her children, and she did not want to draw more attention. Gavin whined. No, we'll have to apply it now. Oliver chimed in. Yes, now. Jasper also urged her. Mommy, sit down. Mommy, it will heal faster if you put it on now, Jessie added. Orissa was helpless in the face of her 5 domineering children who insisted for her to apply the medicine right there and then. All right, she gave in and cooperated with them. After the tube of ointment was opened and squeezed out onto a cotton swab, Jasper rubbed the medicine on Orissa's bruise. Ouch! Orissa felt a sting of pain. Oliver shoved Jasper to the side and stepped forward. You're hurting Mommy. Let me do it. Orissa was amused by her children's antics. I'm fine. I can handle the pain. The medicine must be massaged into the bruise so that it heals faster. Meanwhile, Jessie stood at the side, performing her duty as a professional bruise blower. Zachary and Gavin, on the other hand, were staring intently, making sure everything went smoothly. The scene attracted the attention of many passers-by who couldn't help but watch. These little children are such angels. They are so good to their mother. Some onlookers were touched. What wonderful children you have, a middle-aged woman remarked. Orissa replied with a smile, thank you. More and more people began to gather around. Are they quintuplets? They all look the same. They're too cute. Orissa thanked them again. She widened her eyes at the children, indicating for them to pick up the pace. After that was all done, they headed home. She didn't dare to call for a taxi again this time, so she chose to take the bus. There weren't many people on the bus, but everyone was delighted when they saw the 5 precious children. Some playfully teased the little fellows. Out of the 5, Jessie was the timidest. She hid behind Orissa, holding on to her thigh. The other 4 played it cool, standing tall and proud. You guys can sit here. Someone offered their seat, but Orissa politely declined. That's all right, thanks. We don't mind standing. We're just a few stops away. Seeing the 5 kids behaving so well and just obediently standing with their mom, the people on the bus were surprised and somewhat envious. Words of praise flooded Orissa's ears. She gleefully nodded at everyone in acknowledgement and kept an eye on her kids. Seeing them standing, the bus driver slowed down his speed and drove much steadier. When they reached their stop, Orissa quickly got off the bus first, then helped her children get down. Some kind souls also rushed over to offer help. Thank you, thanks so much. Orissa was chipper. The children did not forget their manners either. "Thank you, mister. Thank you, miss." They waved goodbye to the people on the bus. Not only that, they even got some snacks from bus passengers who insisted and stuffed them in their hands. "Thank you, Mr. Bus Driver." The driver watched everything from the rearview mirror. He couldn't help but exclaim, "These 5 kids are too darn cute." "Right, I'm sad to see them go." The passengers all agreed with the driver's statement. The bus was full of laughter. After getting off the bus, Orissa and the children headed to the nearby supermarket to buy some groceries. Before heading home, "Mommy, let me help you carry that." Gavin reached his little hand out towards the grocery bag. "It's okay, I've got it. Head on inside, kids." She nodded, and they all walked into the neighborhood together. Along the way, many people couldn't help but cast glance at the family of 6. The security guard at the entrance was confused. Weren't there only 4 of them this morning? Where did the other one come from? I only saw 4 too. Maybe the other one is a friend's kid. It can't be. The 5 children all look exactly alike. Goodness, just how many children does she have? As soon as they arrived home, the children immediately brought Orissa over to the couch and forced her to sit down. "Mommy, rest. We'll make dinner," Zachary ordered. Orissa chuckled at this bossy son of hers. Chapter 100. "I'm fine, don't worry, just decide what you want to eat, and leave the rest to me." Resting on the couch, she started to recall the events from earlier. That thug did not say a single word. When the police arrived, he was still unconscious. Was he sent by Donna? Looking at her 5 babies, she couldn't help but be perturbed again. It didn't matter if Donna was out to get her, but she worried for her children's safety. Orissa frowned. She was wondering whether or not she should tell Benjamin. The kids would be much safer with him. "Mommy, what are you thinking about?" Gavin poured her a glass of water. She took the glass and replied, "Sweetheart, does your daddy know that you're here?" The child shook his head. "But I told the bodyguard that we were going to Mommy's house. Maybe he would tell Daddy." Orissa's eyes sparkled. She nodded and caressed his head. "Go on and play. I'll rest for a while." "Okay." After making sure she was okay, Gavin joined Zachary and the others in the kitchen. The 5 little munchkins seemed to work together very well, as if they had been together all their lives. A smile formed on Orissa's lips. It's their first time meeting. But why did they get along so well? Orissa found it funny that they all went to the same school. She walked over to them and asked, "Sweetheart, were you all surprised to meet each other in school?" "Mommy, we didn't even know that Gavin was also in our school. I was very happy when I saw him." Gavin, Zachary, Oliver, and Jasper all looked at each other and smiled. They knew it ages ago. Orissa rubbed Jess's head dotingly. How was school today? Earlier, she was so caught up in wallowing in her own emotions. Only now did she remember to ask about her kids' day at school. "It was fine," the 5 rascals said in unison. Orissa beamed. "Mommy, many of our friends and teachers in school really like us." Jessie described what school was like while Orissa listened attentively. She gazed at the 5 children, each one so sweet and precious. To her, it was impossible that anyone would dislike them. "Mommy, many girls gave candy to my brothers." Orissa chuckled softly and glanced over at the 4 boys. "Well, did any boy give you candy?" "Yes. And many girls too." Jessie grinned like a Cheshire cat. Orissa hugged Jessie and planted a kiss on her head. "Kids, go and play, I'll do the cooking." "Mommy, aren't you going to rest?" Zachary looked worried. His chubby cheek was pinched by Orissa. "I'm really fine. I'm not the same useless person as I was before. I smashed the bad guy's head." The kids' eyes all lit up at once. Jasper was ecstatic. "Mommy, did you use the little hammer I gave you?" "Yes, I did. Thank you, baby. That hammer saved Mommy's life today. If that menace had an accomplice to help kidnap her, the situation might not have gone according to her favor. She swore to never get into a stranger's car ever again. It would be better for her to get a car of her own." Orissa went into the kitchen to prepare to cook. At the same time, she gave Bradley a call. "Bradley, help me buy a car right now." The kind that has 5 seats at the back. Having 5 children called for getting a bigger car. That's sudden. Yes. I almost got kidnapped after work when I got into a taxi, Orissa explained. Oh, fuck. Boss, are you okay? Bradley was horrified by the news. I'm fine. I knocked the guy unconscious and called the police. With knotted brows, Orissa thought that she should have given him a few more blows with the hammer. Was it Donna's doing? Bradley asked. I don't know. It could be. I haven't offended anyone since coming back. The police are still interrogating him. Orissa continued, help me buy a car first. If you could get one by tomorrow, that would be great.